Transition Awareness Breathing. Feeling grounded for both children and parents is essential for healthy living and learning. Join Eartha Powell on this series for tips and tools for creating a harmonious environment for learning. Transition Awareness Breathing will help you and your child find an individualized path to tackle change, promote lifelong learning, and discover new approaches to calmness.
Today, I'd like to welcome a special guest on my show. He has been an influence, especially to my family and my son in particular. And he has used his words to teach my son many ethical, spiritual, and just down-to-earth principles. We're doing our show a little different today for many different reasons, but I hope you appreciate our format and our creativity in bringing our show to you today. I'd like to welcome Rabbi Ephraim Barker. How important are words to you? Words. It seems that as our technology advances, the more we're not talking to each other directly. Have you noticed that? Or maybe it's just me. Today on our podcast, we're going to explore the influence of words. We all know that when we have pets, they love attention. Most pets do. And when we talk to our pets, their behavior really changes according to our words. And sometimes it's not what we say, but it's how we say it. I remember my mother saying that. Eartha, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. And so that part of communication maybe has to be taught. It seems we have all kinds of tools around us to help us build our words. But are we really using the tools to build our words? Or maybe what we're hearing is more important or has more influence than what we are reading. Hi, Rabbi Ephraim. Thank you for joining me on my show today, Transition Awareness Breathing Podcast. I know that we're doing this format a little bit different, and you have such a busy schedule, but I think this is going to work. And with this creative format, I think, I will be able to do this again with future guests. So I appreciate you helping me do this new format. So before we begin the interview, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Shalom, Eartha. It's an honor to be here with you, and thank you for having me on your podcast. I am the rabbi and kosher supervisor at the Jewish Community Center, have been for a while. I've been teaching Torah. I've been the Hebrew teacher at the Torah Academy of San Antonio. I have also been a teacher, an assistant with Ayelet Kabudi, an amazing teacher at the Eleanor Kolitz Hebrew Academy. Many years of tutoring, a decade or so, one-on-one of Hebrew and Judaics, and also, I have been very involved in other aspects of the community as well, here in Jewish community in San Antonio. Also, I work with the non-Jewish community as well, teaching biblical and conversational Hebrew. So yeah, a little bit about me.
You're a great teacher. How do you use your influence of words to help students understand a lot of complex issues? You know, you teach a lot about the Torah. You teach a lot about how to interact with others.
Well, you know, words and speaking are a massive gift from God, and it's what separates us from, as we say, behemot, from animals. So one of the things about communication is you have to basically, as a teacher especially, you have to understand that, number one, it's not about you. You know, the ego has to really be put in check. You're dealing with another human being, a young human being, and you have to be able to reach them. And you have to be not just speaking, but you have to also be able to intake from the student's perspective as much as you possibly can in order to open them up for education, whatever the subject you're teaching, whether it's mathematics, science, Torah, Hebrew, whatever it is. So you have to be flexible, and you know, it's really not one size fits all. I'll be very honest with you. So my students, I generally have different approaches. I definitely try to add when appropriate, and it presents itself, you know, humor to loosen things up, or, you know, I try to create interactive activities for the students. Like I do a thing with Hebrew tic-tac-toe with different colored cups. They play the tic-tac-toe, but they have a question answer. At whoever wins, they have to answer the question correctly to get the point. So you create a little bit of a competitive environment, but at the same time, something fun, something unique, something good. Usually, you know, that goes over well. So that's a way to communicate. But words are things. You know, in Hebrew, a word is called is a dibur, right? Is to speak, or a word. A thing in Hebrew is davar. It's the same root. So when you speak things, you are creating things with your speech. And if it's coming from the heart and you really mean it, then as in Hebrew we say, if you have the kavanah, the proper intention, then that dibur, i.e. davar, thing, will go into the heart of that other person. That's how come with teaching children, you have to be very, very careful. You know, it's one thing to be involved in finance, for instance, and, you know, you're doing your best and maybe you make a bad financial decision. You can recoup that. You know, you got to stay. That's okay. You know, you can recoup it. You know, it's not, I'm not saying it's fun, but you can recoup that. But if you're teaching children, you got to be real careful as an educator, because you can really mess a child up and throw them off for a long time if they have received the information that is, number one, if it's wrong information, it's not good. Now they have to spend a big part of their life getting the right information. And number two is, even if you had the right information, but your intention was about you and not about the child, then it didn't really go in, and it didn't have any effect on the child. As a matter of fact, it might have had the opposite effect, even though the information was correct and good, but because of the kavanah from the moreh or morah, it doesn't work. So you have to have the right intention coming from your heart, and it's a heart to heart, and the educator must really absorb the students on every level and try to reach them as best as they can without any gava, any arrogance, but only anava, only humility, to reach the child and to speak from the heart has the best effect, in my opinion, whenever you're dealing with children. I've been working with children for a long time, and as an educator, I have learned that it has to be real, has to be emet, has to come from the lev, the heart, and your dibur, i.e. davar, must be something that is true and potent from yourself to them, and then more than likely they will, at least the seed will be planted and germinate within the psyche of the child, and then a good if you will, metaphorically speaking. A good tree will grow out of that, and the child will be able to be blessed from the fruit that they will be able to, metaphorically speaking, eat from that tree later on of the proper knowledge and information and the ability and skill set that you've given that child. And that comes through communication, through my specialty, which is speech. So it's something that I take very serious and I love to do. So thank you for your question. And again, it's an honor to be here with you today.
In the practice of mindfulness, one thing that's emphasized a lot is our positive and developing a positive self-talk. How we describe ourselves, how we see ourselves, those messages that filter through our minds and our brains and our spirit. And I think maybe sometimes we keep ourselves so busy and so distracted that we don't hear our self-talk. And so are we really getting to know ourselves? How have you seen, or what is your opinion of keeping a positive perspective, positive self-talk in the people that you deal with in your teaching?
Wow, that's a good question, Eartha, on the basically society's dependence on the technology, which we're even using now. It's great, but definitely you can see the negative side effects of it as well. Human interaction is extremely important. In the question answering about what kind of advice do I give people, like that are overwhelmed by the senses with all the technology in their face now today, through the phone, the TV, all of these things, it surrounds you, it overwhelms your senses. So I said, go into nature, outside, disconnect, reconnect with your inner self. So really, it's the same type of concept. You need to try to, what I would give is to just give people advice to try to volunteer, go out and be with people. Because what happens is that, there's kind of like a negative psychosis that happens when a person is isolated like that. You are, number one, not in tune with who you are as a human being, because you're allowing other things to script you, such as the technology. As a matter of fact, we have this thing now with the AI, which is really interesting. In Hebrew, this is called Bina Milachutit. Bina means understanding, but Milachutit comes from the word, the shorish of the word, the root of the word is malach, which is like a messenger, an angel. But it's also interesting because Milachutit also is another word that they'll use sometimes to refer to something that's fake. It's not real. It's been artificially created. So I think when you create an artificial world by being isolated, it's not good. And you need to try to make sure that you have human contact, especially right now more than ever. We need to be in touch with other human beings. There needs to be that heart to heart, the energetic fields, communicating. And yeah, you take it, and people say, yeah, but I feel more safe at home. I feel safer. That's understandable. I get that, but it's still something that we must do. We must interact with the world. We're not meant to be isolated like that as human beings. Human beings are meant to, fill the world up, to be in touch and in tune with the world. So for me, it's very important for students to understand there needs to be things that are done in a way that involve human contact. That's how come when I teach a class with children, I have them interact with one another, whether it's through games, dialogue. There needs to be interaction between other human beings and not just on a computer screen, because you need to develop that element of empathy and sympathy towards your fellow human being, then that cannot just be captured on a screen in a moment. It can be moving, but you need to actually be there and to feel it, to sense it. And in order to do that, you need to have that human contact. So I always encourage, my students to definitely make sure that they have that human contact, and it's extremely important. And unfortunately, we're seeing way too much, in my opinion, of this isolation mentality, and it leads to a very negative psychosis. Paranoia and sadness and depression, and really it's not good. And, so you have to have a breakthrough from that. It's important basically simply just to get involved in your community some way, volunteering, but having that human contact is extremely important.
It seems like the more advanced our society gets with technology, that our face-to-face interactions are decreasing. I mean, you can go all day, order things, learn things, and not really interact with the person face-to-face. How do you think that is influencing our society? How do you think it's influencing students, in your perspective?
Be sure and pick up a copy of Eartha's new book, Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's not just an ordinary coloring book. It features 23 illustrations to stimulate thought, relaxation, and creativity for anyone between the ages of 4 and 94. Increase your positive self-talk energy. Unlock new creative paths. Transform your time once or twice a week to create beautiful art while strengthening confidence, building positive self-talk, and sensitize self-awareness. Tab Mindfulness, Awareness and Coloring Activities in a Pandemic World. It's available now at Amazon.com.